The four corner pieces, all black. Well, the beginning has begun. Our four corner pieces assembling on the canvas. And of course we've got our clock here. That will go towards the top from what I've decided. Here are our colors, 48 in all. All these colors. Will be starting out with black four corners. All these pieces here will be all different colors, 49 colors in all. These are going to be the flat edge pieces. Periodically throughout the painting, there's my email address if you want to email me. So it's going to be quite a quite a challenge. Yeah, 60 years of creative arts. Doing something different is what this is all about. This way you don't get bored. You say, well, I've done this before. No, you haven't. Okay, here you're going to paint your edges. So create a 3D effect. You just take your time doing it. There's no big rush in it. It's going to take you a while. It's called time. Nothing but time. No special talents required. Just patience. You've got patience, you're in. But the end result will be a trip. Make sure you cover all parts on the edge, or whatever you prefer. The excess you're going to wipe off when you go all the way around. It only takes a moment, not that big of a deal. But you don't want to spend a long time going around it because this paint's going to be drying the whole time. What I recommend doing, save you some hassle later on, you're going to wipe all this off, and I'll show you exactly how to do it in an easy manner. This is vitally important. Lay your piece down, have your wet rag I got a little pail here I keep it in. Clean your fingers off. You got to get those tips clean. You don't want no excess paint on the outside, so just continue wiping. Okay, once you get your excess off, otherwise when you go to put your other coat on, you're going to have black streaks in it. Now you got to repaint it over again. Not the black, but the color. And I'm going to use 49 different colors to create this image. Clean your surface off well, no problem. And once you get it cleaned off, take my wet rag, put it back in my little bucket. To remove your piece, just bend it over, like so. Slide your razor under it. And then put it over here. With the rest of them. And set it down. Don't drag it, just set it. Like so. Now go back and do your next piece. You can see right here I've got a whole bunch of them ready to do. So now we go back to our card. I like the business card because one, you can bend it, pliable, makes it easy to pick it up. Yeah, it takes some patience. This particular one here, I've got a clock, battery operated. It will more than likely be at the top of it. And I've thought about this for over, well, for over a year, exactly how I was going to do it. And it's pretty cool, actually. It just kind of, you know, it's escape from the world of all the bull crap that's going on. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So this is kind of a getaway. Kind of helps you sleep better at night. In the morning, you're kind of excited to do a few pieces. Maybe you want to do a handful. It's up to you. It's all up to you. Doing something different. That's what art's all about. Done a lot of different things in my day, but this one I've never tried. The thing interesting about this idea that you're going to find out, hopefully, you don't give up on it. Nothing lost. I paid $9 for the puzzle. Maybe $9 I should have kept. I don't know. It's only $9, okay? So I figured I'd give it a whirl, see what happens. And the ending result should really be cool from what I've calculated. And again, we're going to clean this piece off. Make sure your fingertips are clean. Otherwise, you're going to be putting a mess right in the middle of it. Pretty simple. You there? Just make sure the top surface is cleaned well. Otherwise, your paint will bleed for the color you're going to put on top. Whether it be yellow, blue, green, orange, mauve, purple, green. Okay, there you go. That piece is cleaned off. Took my wet rag, put it in a little tiny, actually it's a coffee container, Folgers coffee, hanging over the side. It's always wet, so it's easy to clean. See, this piece is well cleaned. No black paint on the top. Bend your card. Put your razor underneath it. And move it over your sheet of paper. And lay it down. Now you're ready for your next piece. And so on. This you've got to clean up. You're going to put another layer on top, color it. If you have any black on the top, it's going to mix in your other paint. There you go. Black on the edge, this would be another color. 49 color to be exact. Well, it's now 2:30 in the morning. Biological clock or whatever just woke me up. Said, well, it's time. Then some people say, what's the longest you've ever worked? Well, to be honest with you, actually, it would have been 37 hours on a project. Of course, not this one, this back when I was doing toothpick houses. Yeah, 2:30 in the morning, man. Yeah, I've worked 37 hours straight before. Nothing unusual. And then walked up to the gas station to get me glue because I was making toothpick houses. Ran out. I walked up there and got me a cup of coffee and got me a newspaper, my tube of glue. So I'm headed back to my house, my apartment today. Sure enough, I get over there, I'm about halfway there. It was only like 3 blocks away. I just walked. So I get over, But like I said, about probably halfway home. Next thing you know, this alarm's going off in his house. And I'm like, what the heck that's all about? Sure enough, this cop drives by. It says, sir, you know anything about the alarm over on that house over there? I said, no. I said, I just went up here to 7-Eleven, got me a coffee and newspaper here to read. He says, well, he said, you got any ID on you? I said, well, yeah, sure. He says, well, looked at it and says, oh, okay. He said, you look good. Yeah, thank you. The next thing you know, I walk onto my apartment and about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes later, I heard this bam, bam, bam on my door. Like, what the heck is that? This time of morning, you know? There's a little bit of daylight, not much. Must have been, I don't know, 5 o'clock maybe. So I go ahead and open the door. This is back in around 1975, I think it was. I was like 19 at the time. So sure enough, he says, yeah, he says, he's peeking through the crack of the door and he sees this big toothpick house I'm working on. He looks at me and he says, by the way, he says, you have a warrant out? I said, a warrant? I said, for what? Well, apparently it's a parking ticket you never did pay for. And I got to thinking and I thought, oh man, that was a long time ago. It was $2.50. Ticket. That was back then. Well, sure enough, he got to looking at that toothpick house and he says, what you making there? I said, sir, that's a toothpick house. He said, a toothpick house? I said, well, yeah. And it was pretty good size, too. Matter of fact, Duro Glue Company bought it. Took it to Ohio and sold it to Duro Glue. So at any rate, he said, man, that's fantastic. He walked on the side, you know, looking at it and stuff. And it had little lights in there, porch lights on it, and all that stuff. It took me about a year and a half to build it. So, next thing you know, he says, say, do you mind if some of my buddies come over here and look at this? This is a cop now, and I'm like, yeah, I don't see why not. Might as well. I had no idea I was going to jail, but at any rate, I guess there was a bond had to be paid and all this kind of crap. I didn't have the money for that, man. I was barely working then. I worked for a roofing company. Must have been drizzling that day or something, because then we can't roof, you know what I'm saying, that kind of thing. So anyway, he gets all of his buddies. And there must have been 12 police cars out in front of my apartment. And I'm sure the neighbors were thinking, wow, he killed somebody or what? I mean, he had to have been thinking something awful had happened. So, lo and behold, all these cops came into my little apartment room. And I mean, you couldn't even walk across that room. There was all just piled in there, all these cops with all their guns and all that crap. And they were all just looking at the house and checking it out. I'm just standing there, just, you know, hope y'all enjoying yourselves, you know. So, officer says, after everybody left, you know, shook my hand and all this kind of crap. So then they all left, except for that one. he says, well, he says, I hate to do this to you, Steve, he said, but you're going to have to go to jail. I said, to jail? I said, well, I got $2.50. No, he said, that's not going to work. He said, you have to post bond on this. Because there was a warrant out for you because you never did pay it. I'm thinking to myself, well, that ain't right. I'll pay you $2.50 for the ticket and we'll call it good. No, I can't do it like that. I said, well, okay. So he said, I'll tell you what, he said, I'm not going to put handcuffs on you, nothing like that. He says, but, he says, what I want you to do is to go ahead and, you know, get your things together or whatever. And back then we never had a cell phone, had a pager. You know, like I need that. At any rate, sure enough, take me to jail, put me in a little cell, holding cell, I guess. They locked me up and I'm sitting there going like, wow, what am I gonna do about this? I said, well, how much is the bond? $250. I'm like, holy cow, that's ridiculous. Well, I know, he said, but that's the way it is. So I'm freaking out over this thing, man. I'm like, wow. So I called my landlady up. Of course, you give me the phone through the bars, you know. Yeah, here, go and call whoever you need to call. I called the landlady up. I told her, I says, yeah, this landlady. She says, yeah. I said, this is Steve, one that rents one of your units. She says, yeah, Steve. She says, what do you need? I said, well, I'm down here in jail. She got to laughing. I mean, she was laughing like no tomorrow. I thought, you witch. Why are you laughing? I'm in jail. I used to like maintenance work for her, you know, painting and painting her house and stuff like that. To work on a porch and crap. So she got to laughing. She says, well, hon, she says, I'll be there after a bit. It'll be a couple hours and I'll be down there to get you out. Well, I certainly would appreciate it. She saw no problem. So, sure enough, she shows up a couple hours later and she says, as soon as she got in the door, she says, you know what kind of birds don't fly, don't you? And I says, well, kinda. She said, that's a jailbird. I'm like, man, what are you gonna say something like that for? She got tickled about it because I was in jail over a parking ticket. So she goes ahead and pays my parking ticket. Of course, she gave me my wallet back and all that crap. And I proceeded back home. Got my glue out, started gluing again. And I'll tell you, that was the darndest house I made. I had to drive it all the way to Ohio the day of Christmas Eve, no mind you, to Duro Glue Company, to the president of the company, because he wanted to buy it. So I told him, I said, well, yeah, I guess I can go ahead and deliver it. I said, it'll be Christmas Eve. He said, well, that's fine. So I drive all the way up there, me and a buddy of mine. And it was winter time, okay, in Ohio. And it was cold, let me tell you what, it was so cold. Had that toothpick house in the back, this truck, this car rather. Got all the way there. Got to the president's house of Duro Glue Company. He's probably dead now, I mean that was, he was a little old back then, but he was really old by then. Sure enough, went up there and carried the toothpick house up to his house. Big, beautiful home, man, I mean it was nice. Like nothing I'd never seen before. I thought, you know, it must be nice living something like this. So sure enough, he says, wrote me a check out for $2,500. Like I say, it was a big toothpick house, it wasn't little. So, wrote me a check out and I went ahead and I think I cashed it in that town or something. It was on Christmas Eve. I don't know if the bank was even open. Anyway, I cashed a check. Of course, the check was good, no problem there. So, it was pretty much the end of that. So I got to thinking. I thought, you know, if you were to calculate that, how much I got paid per hour for building that toothpick house, not including supplies and all. Of course, toothpicks back then weren't that much anyway. They were the flat toothpicks. They don't even make those no more. All they make is round ones. So, it's called the Gemini house, what it was called. It had a little sign out front of the house. On the porch, it had Gemini house. Because I'm a Gemini. And everything in the house had like double windows, little dog houses, you know what I mean, on the roof. Had little lights that would light up on the inside of them. And kind of crazy. So I figured it out, come out to a nickel an hour to build that stupid toothpick house. Cool looking house. At any rate, that's the that's the story of the toothpick house. Kind of funny, but one of those things in life you go through and it's like, wow, what a trip. Oh well. So now I got this different project going. I always got something going, something I'm building and creating or something. And I like creating stuff, you know, it's kind of wild, but fun, I guess. Good way to pass some time. Put an X on these so that way I know I use this color, see? Yeah, I know, smart move. So, yeah. That's the way things go. What you can do about it, just truck on. Now I got this puzzle painting. You probably want to know what the name of it is. Well, you know it's taking time to build it. So the name of it is Optical Illusion 3-dimensional clock painting. Because it took time to build it. You gotta have time in there, right? Even at 2:30 in the morning. Got my coffee out. Pop-Tart. Actually got 2 Pop-Tarts. So eat a couple of those and keep a little sugar going. Cup of coffee. You're good to go. There's nothing like it. And this date happened to be right near Thanksgiving, 2025. I mean, look back and that was, 50 years ago. Man, how time flies. But in all honesty say, this has been some serious therapy for you. Art is so cool. If you're not involved in the arts, well, you must be living a pretty miserable life. Because this is like an sedative. You just kind of lay back. Your mind just kind of like drifts off into your own little world. And all the crazy stuff is all gone. No problems, no worries. You don't think about last week, tomorrow, next week. Like I say, you're just kind of like, you're there. Pretty much it. Keep that brush clean, that's important. Don't no other color, mix it with another one. No, can't have that. Alright. It's a pretty color here. Ultramarine blue. That's a nice color right there, I like it. Over there, isn't that pretty? Yeah, kind of nice. Of course, I got through, I'll put an X on there. I know I use that color. I've only got 48 colors to go through. If you include white, that'd be 39, but I don't see no use in having a white piece on, unless it'd be somewhere behind the clock, on the face of the clock. That'd be kind of cool, I guess. You know, the trick to this is knowing where to put the paint first, but if you put too much in one area, you end up with a run over. The edges of it are going to be black. Most of them already are. The ones that I'm painting anyway are already black on the edge there. I don't know if you can see this very well. But it's got black edges all the way around it. I don't know how many pieces it's going to take. It is a 500 piece puzzle. Of course, you're not using the edge pieces, straight edge, you're just using the regular puzzle pieces. The only 4 I'm going to use on those would be the corners, and they are all black. I forgot to put this one here away. This color here I just got to use a minute ago. What the heck is that? Medium magenta. Yeah. A cool color. Ladies might like it, but don't get me too excited. I got my music turned off over there. I got the Beatles playing. It made me a little SD card. It's got 1,600 songs on it. Man, you can play that thing all week, never hear that same song. Pretty cool. But can't be playing that music now. They won't let you upload none of this stuff that's got music on it. Okay with me, I guess. So I'll turn the camera off and go back to my music. And I'll be back around here shortly. Smoothed out a little bit there. Alright, I've got 2 other colors here left for now. So, that's the moral of the story. Well, soon here we'll be doing some assembly work. This is basically the last of the colors. Pretty cool. Be very interesting when this thing all goes together. Yeah, doing something different. That's what art's all about. Well, here we are at about 2:30 in the morning. Actually, it's almost 3 o'clock. Imagine that. Anyway, anybody out there cat lovers? Love cats? Just curious. Well, I'd like to explain a few things about cats. I love dogs. Cats, I don't know, they're just like, they're different. Really different. I don't understand them, but it's just the way it goes, I guess. At any rate, the ex-wife, as she became, she liked cats. And a lot of times she'd go to the dog pound, cat pound, whatever you want to call it. That's where she always get her cats. Well, to me, if you're going to put a cat in or a dog or whatever in a dog pound, I guess some of them can be really great pets and some of them are just like, wow, out in left field somewhere, I don't know. At any rate, she loved cats. Sure enough, she'd say, oh, honey, I want to get me a cat. I want to get me a cat. And I tried to put it off as long as I could. Then she started getting all depressed. And of course, she never did really work. Stayed at home all the time. That may have been her problem. I don't know. I never will figure out a woman, that's for sure. So at any rate, she brought this cat home among several cats. I mean, this was just one of many. Sure enough, she bring this cat home and I said, wow, I said, that's a pretty cool looking cat you got there. Beautiful looking cat. I think one of them was like a Siamese looking cat. Vietnamese, I don't know what the heck that sucker was, but I'm telling you what. You walk by it every now and then, that thing would jump up in the air and it'd be like, what is that cat's problem? I could never figure it out. It's like, this is crazy. Well, come to find out, she went and took it to the vet, tried to see what his problem was, see if he could figure it out. Well, he figured it out. The freaking cat was blind. When you went up and touched it, the cat would like freak out. It would absolutely just, I mean, leap up in the air. Sometimes it'd hit the wall. I'd be like, what in the world is wrong with that thing? Couldn't understand it. So at any rate, needless to say, that cat was down the road kitty. I told her, I said, we can't be having a freaking blind cat hanging around here. I said, this is crazy. I think it had already been declawed. The people who ever had it couldn't figure it out. Of course, it wound up in the old pound. So I guess she took it back to the pound and that was that. And later down the road, here she goes, off on her little cat tangent. Gotta have a kitty. Well, thinking, oh boy, here we go. And we were just kind of married, you know, and I'm like, this is strange, man. I don't like this. I never was, I'm a dog person, I love dogs, don't get me wrong. I just never was into cats. They were always strange for some reason, I don't know. But some people love them, well, good for them. At any rate, she decides she wants another kitty here later on. So, lo and behold, she comes home, brings another cat home, and this cat was really weird, man. This cat would be like running through the living room or whatever and just smack right into the wall. I told her, I says, what is up with that cat? I don't know, she says. I said, well, there's something wrong with it. I says, I ain't never seen a cat just go run as fast as it can and smack into the wall. This is absolutely crazy. I'm like, wow, this is really weird. So after a while, she finally took it into the vet. See what his problem was. I mean, she had some vet bills going, let me tell you. And I had to pay them. That was the scary part of it all. I didn't want the thing to begin with. It's her idea, not mine. So sure enough, she goes on to the vet again. Takes this blasted cat. Got her little cat carrier. A lot of cats were in that carrier, let me tell you. So she goes to the vet with this cat, trying to figure out what his deal is. Well, cat does an examination, the vet does an examination on it. Well, come to find out, the freaking cat is blind. Yeah, blind cat, imagine that. So I'm like, wow, this is a trip. So she brings it back home and she says, I found out what's wrong with the cat. I said, well, what is it? She says, it's blind. I said, well, I think you're going to have to get rid of it. You can't be having a blind cat here. I mean, it's crazy. How's it going to know where its dish is? How's it going to eat? How's it going to, I don't know. I said, I don't get it. I said, you and your cats, man, I'll tell you what, of course you start to bawl and thing, you know. You know how they do. If you have a wife, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. At any rate, that cat, needless to say, had to go back down the road, and of course she's in tears again, and I'm thinking, man, are we going to get divorced because of cats? This is just not making any sense to me at all. Well, some time went by. Of course, she's getting all depressed and all this kind of stuff. And I tell you, women, man, trying to figure them out, you never will. You can try all you want. Trust me, you'll never figure them out. God made them that way. Had to. That was your duty, is try to figure out what makes a woman tick. Well, needless to say, she's back on her cat streak again. I mean, she had them about, maybe 6 months apart, maybe a year apart. It depends what was ever going through her brain. I never knew half the time what was going through it, but that's a whole different ball game. So, sure enough, she decides she wants another cat. And here we go, cat carrier and all. She brings this freaking cat home. I'm thinking to myself right off the bat, I wonder what's wrong with this one. Back to the pound she went, got that stupid cat, brought that thing home. And I'm trying to be friendly with it, and this, that, and the other. And I don't know about you, but to me, if a cat is up on the table licking the plates, I got a problem with that. It's just not sanitary to me. I don't know. Walking over the dishes and looking for something to eat out of the plates. And I'm like, this thing's already got food. Why is it licking the plates? I don't know. Maybe it's always fed table food. I don't know. I don't get it. Never did. So sure enough, I told her one day, I said, you know what? See where that cat's at? It's up there licking our plates. I said, that's not cool. Of course, she's giving me this look like, oh no, like she's about to cry or something. She knows this cat's going to be history. It's coming up. Yeah, it came up all right. So I told her, here after, I don't know, probably a month or so I've been dealing with this freaking thing. I told her, I said, let me explain something to you, woman. I said, this cat cannot be licking out of her plates and stuff. I said, it gets up in the cupboard, it's over by the sink, in the dirty dishes. I said, you know, this ain't right. Something's wrong here. I have to get rid of it. I can't deal with it anymore. It's done. Get rid of it. So here she goes, crying again. Got my morning coffee here, by the way. Yeah. You know who that is? Yeah. You're familiar with them people there. So at any rate, she decided, well, I guess the cat's got to go. Husband's all ticked off about it. So I told her I was fixing to go to work. And I told her, I said, let me explain something to you. I said, when I get home this evening, I said, I want you and your cat, get rid of it. It has to go. So she went ahead and went along with the program like with the rest of them. So sure enough, she takes back to the pound, takes her little kitty with her. And so I get home. There she is. She knew just about what time I was going to arrive, man. She's gonna flood the gates here with them tears running down her face. I'm thinking, man, this is going to be sad when I get home. It's really going to be sad if the cat's still there. That's really going to be bad. Well, you know, I'm not a mean person. Actually, I get along with everybody and get along with dogs, but cats, I don't know. I always had something different about cats. I don't know what it was, but something just different. So sure enough, I get home and she's crying away, you know, and boo-hooing. And I'm thinking, well, here we go. Gonna be another reckless evening, I guess. So, needless to say, I told her, I said, how long are you going to continue crying over this cat? I said, you know, you have to understand something here. I said, it's unhealthy for this thing to be in the dishes, licking them, hair everywhere. I mean, you can only take so much of this, man, you know? I just can't deal with that kind of stuff. But for you people that love cats, more power to you. I'm glad for you. I'm glad you're happy with your cat. But I asked her, I said, what would you do with the cat? She says, I didn't feel like taking it to the pound. I said, so what'd you do with it? Well, I went down the road, you know that field way over there where the woods are? I said, yeah. She says, when I went through the woods there a little bit ways there and back in the weeds and stuff, she says, I took and opened the door of the car and I let the cat out. I said, well, I thought you were going to take it to the pound. She said, well, I just didn't feel like driving all the way to the pound and this and that. I said, well, okay, that's fine. She says, no, it's not. I said, well, what happened? And I thought, man, what did you do to that cat? What really happened, you know? Sure enough, she says, I opened the door and when I let it out, she said, I went ahead and I put the car in reverse and I backed up and she says, I ran over it. I couldn't help it, man. I just started busting out. I mean, I was like, wow. I said, you ran over the cat? She says, yeah. And I said, oh no. I said, that's not good. I know. And she just started crying and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, oh, holy cow. She murdered the cat by accident. I mean, it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't nothing intentional. She wouldn't intentionally kill a cat. So, hey, oh, that cracked me up. I don't know why, but it did. I thought, wow, she ran over her own cat. Maybe she'll get over it now and she won't have no more cats. Well, it was a long time before she ever got another one, let me tell you that. Absolutely incredible. And I could not believe it. Then she had another cat. She got one here later after that one. She wound up with another one. This thing looked like, I don't know. I can't really explain it, but it was like 12 different colors or something. It was just a weird looking cat. So here we go with this cat, and finally, of course, it wound up history again, along with the rest of them. I don't know what his problem was, but something was wrong with it. Either it didn't like me, or I don't know, maybe it sensed it or something, I don't know. So sure enough, she ends up turning it loose, or it ran away, I think is what happened. It decided, I'm out of here, man. I can't deal with these people. So anyway, the cat freaking left. And we hadn't seen it in a long time. I mean, you know, probably a month or so it went past, maybe 2 months, I don't know, something like that. So sure enough, we're going down the road, leaving our place where we were living there. We're going down the road, went down the road, and suddenly this cat runs right out in front of my car. And I told her, I said, look, there's your cat. And the cat just stared at us as we went, I was headed towards it, right? So sure enough, the cat just darted and it was gone. It just hauled tail, man. It was just disappeared. She said, that was that cat. And his hair was all standing on end all over it. Looked like it just had I don't know, some kind of a permanent of some kind. I mean, it was just ugly looking. Bad looking. Dirty, nasty looking, hair all stuck out in 7,000 different directions. I was like, man, that cat is roughing it, let me tell you. Sleeping out in the weeds and all that kind of crap. Who knows what it was going to eat. Probably bugs and lizards and crickets and stuff, I guess. Maybe the neighbors down the road were feeding her, I don't know. Well, at any rate, that was history there. Another cat gone. And that was pretty much the end of that. I don't know if we ever got another cat after that. I don't think this day she's even got a cat. Too many bad memories, I guess. But that was that. Women, man, there's something else. You'll never figure them creatures out as long as you live. You'll try to figure them out, try to understand them, but nah. Never will. Just the way they're made, man. Unbelievable. You know, I remember after I got to making some good money, working as a locksmith. It was an interesting trade, let me tell you. Running some really crazy stuff. People locked out of their cars and just everything you can possibly imagine can happen to a locksmith. Crazy stuff. So sure enough, while we had a little money there, of course she was in control of the checkbook and all that kind of stuff, you know, that kind of scared me a little bit. And I figured maybe she'll do good here with that, you know. Be my bookkeeper. That's why I ain't gotta worry about writing all the checks out and all this kind of stuff. Well, sure enough, she's got the checkbook, and eventually she got a credit card. So time went on, and I mean, several months have gone by. Maybe, I don't know, a year probably, a year or so. And I told her, I says, I got to look at the checkbook and this, that, and the other. And some of the stuff she'd write down, I guess maybe some of it she wouldn't. Well, she was going through that money like crazy, man. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? $250 at the drugstore? I don't know of anybody that bought nails and polish. It was 250 bucks. Well, come to find out, she'd go there at the Eckerd's or whatever it was, one of them stores. I think it was Eckerd's though. So sure enough, she's there at the place there and got her nails and little polish put on them. You know, looking real pretty like. So I told her, I says, well, what's this $250? I says, at Eckerd's, and $300 and this, that, and the other. She says, well, I needed some money. I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay, you needed money. What in the world do you need all this money for? No, she wasn't into drugs, none of that stuff. She wouldn't even take an aspirin half the time. Afraid she's going to have an aneurysm or something. So sure enough, she, after a while there, I'm like, you know what? I'm working my hind end off here, running calls day and night, trying to keep up with everything. So went along after that. We wound up. I told her, I said, well, chill out on the nails and crap, would you? If you need any money, let me know. And I said, I'll get you some. No problem. I get tips and stuff during the day, you know, people tip me. And sure enough, next thing you know, of course, get a couple credit cards. You know how that goes. You got to get your credit cards going. And you start going through your credit cards. Spend them like no tomorrow. Oh, eventually you'll get them caught up, I guess. You think you will. So, next thing you know, we went ahead and went down to the car lot and was going to buy a car. And we wound up with this Honda LXI Accord, sports coupe. So I went to the dealership and was talking to the guy, and he says, yeah, he said, this is a nice car here. He said, you'll like it. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, take it home, you can drive it. You can drive it all week. And at the time I was driving an old 64 Ford pickup. Nice looking truck, man. I took care of it, repainted it all up, fixed it up real nice. Of course, the steering was never right because of the gearbox. And the steering was kind of like, it would drift. If you went a little bit off the road, that thing would swing one way or swing the other way, and you had to be ready. Okay. So, sure enough, we ended up getting this LXI Accord. Nice car, man. This was like a demo model, so he guys said, oh yes, I can give you a break on this. He said, this was a demo. You know, we drive around with, you know, for customers looking at our Hondas and all this, that, and the other. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, well. That's why I decided to go ahead and get it. Well, it was $26,000. Payments were like, it was more than my rent. Let's put it that way. The time they had everything on it, it was like, wow. I wasn't quite ready for that bill. So, sure enough, we get the car. And I told her, she smoked at the time, and I did too. So I told her, I said, by the way, I said, don't be smoking in this car. I said, it's going to start stinking really bad. So, she's driving this car around, you know, I'm at work all day, and shoot, the only time I ever get to drive is on the weekend. I don't drive it through the week. I'm busy running these freaking calls. Trying to keep track of these bills. I got a little baby I'm raising, my little daughter, you know, little Heidi. Taking care of her. All the things that she needs along with the wife. It's like, man, I am going through some money here. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm willing to play it out. So, lo and behold, we ended up getting a call from a credit card, or the credit card. That came later. But anyway, we get a call from the Honda dealer. Your check bounced. And I'm thinking to myself, it bounced. I couldn't quite figure figure that out. I thought, man, must be that credit card she's using. Sure enough, here she'd been using a credit card. Well, I never checked on that stuff. I mean, I was young and dumb. You know how that goes. Some things you just don't pay attention to, but you better. So, next thing you know, I hear this noise outside. This is probably, I don't know, maybe a couple months after that phone call. So I ended up sending them a check or whatever. Well, I guess it just didn't play out too well. I heard this noise out front. Kind of reminded me of maybe a tow truck driver. Diesel engine kind of thing going, you know. So sure, I peek out the window, and here's the people are coming to get the car. I'm like, uh-oh. We're not going to have any transportation here. So sure enough, the guy's hooking up to the car, got cable chains out there and all this crap. And I slip out that door and I hollered at the guy. I said, yo! I said, what are you doing? Well, we're here to get the car and this, that, and the other for, you know, non-payment and this, that, and I said, well, okay, no big deal. I said, would you like the keys to it? I guess they never end up getting the keys. The people who lose their car will not give the keys back because they're all ticked off. Well, I'm not like that. I'll give you the keys to it, no problem. I said, oh, he said, I really appreciate that. I said, yeah, no problem, man. You got the car, you got the keys. There you go. So anyway, he splits, no car, car's gone. And that's kind of how that went. Lost the car, and I guess eventually we wound up getting an old beater car or something. Trust me, we did. We got an old Topaz, like an '84 model, little four-banger. Man, what a joke that car was. But anyway, it got us around okay. But the last I remember of that car, it seemed to eat up that one tire really bad. Well, it had a bent, I don't know, some kind of bent thing underneath the axle thing or something. I don't know, somebody ran a curb or hit a stump or something, but I don't know, ran over something, but it was screwed up. So I was driving this car, and next thing you know, the freaking coil thing went out. The heater coil thing with the water ran through it. Well, that heater coil, I guess, got a hole in it. So I'm driving down the road, and next thing you know, of course I'm wearing glasses at that time. Since then, my vision changed and went 100%, which is incredible. My doctor said, that's amazing. He said, it does happen, but it's very rare. So I'm driving down the road, and the next thing you know, I see all these ants are all over my glasses. And I'm like, what the heck? Thought I was imagining something. I didn't know what was going on. I thought, this is weird, man. What's all these ants on my freaking glasses? Had the AC going, you know. Well, it so happens that water coolant thing under the dashboard was leaking water out of it. It had a hole in it. I guess it rusted through or something there. So anyway, that's what happened to that car. It had that coil leak in it. And I was like, you know, this is screwed up. So I ended up getting it replaced with another one. Found one at a junkyard or something like that, I guess. Ended up fixing it. And we drove it again for another long time. And I don't know whatever happened to that car, but we ended up getting, I think I sold it. I think I sold it to somebody for $100. Then I bought a Crown Vic. That was a real trip in that car. Ate gas, whew. That car ate some fuel, let me tell you. I don't even remember what year it was. But anyway, that was a gas hog. All that thing did was drink, drink, drink. Couldn't believe it. But you know how it is when you got cars, man. You gotta feed them. You gotta get tires on them. You gotta always do something to them. It's like never ending, you know. Kind of like raising cats. It just never ends. Oh man, I'll tell you what. Some of the things I have been through is like, I just can't believe it. Just cannot believe it. But they're old memories, but they're really cool because older you get, you think about these from time to time. And every now and then a friend will come over and I'll be talking to him about this, that, and the other, different things that have happened over my life. Actually, some really amazing things, really, to be honest with you. Some people would never live through it. They'd never make it. They would not survive it. And I'll kind of give you an example of it. This old man, he was down the road there. He was about 95. Every now and then I'd go down there and talk with him. Of course, he had his stories to tell, which were pretty interesting. He always had a pipe in his mouth, always. You never seen him without that freaking pipe. And I remember going over to his place there one day, and he'd back there laying in the bedroom. Had a 5-gallon bucket in there, and every time he'd light his pipe, he would toss these wooden matches into that 5-gallon bucket. Well, needless to say, that bucket was filled like over half full of these burnt matches. And his room was like a cloud. Like he was in the middle of a cloud up in the sky or something, I don't know. Doctor said that he should have been dead. There's no way this guy is alive, because he had, I don't know, like 4 strokes, 3 heart attacks, and he's still ticking. And so I told him, I said, you ever do any fishing? Yeah, I used to fish all the time. Of course, nobody never paid him no attention. He lived there all by himself. And so I told him, I said, if you want to go fishing sometime, I said, I got a little kingfisher bass boat, so we can go out fishing. He said, yeah, he said, he'd like to do that. I said, well, tell you what, we'll go fishing then. I'll let you know when we're going to go. He said, all right. He said, well, I'm ready to go fishing. I said, okay, buddy. I said, we're going to go fishing then. Kind of felt sorry for him, you know. He lived by himself over there, and nobody went to see him, that kind of thing, you know. So I figured I'd kind of brighten things up for him and kind of help him out a little bit. Even worked his old car he had sitting out there. He hadn't driven it in a couple of years. I said, hey man, I said, I'll clean your car up for you. And he said, well, okay. So I went out there and scrubbed that thing up. Man, that thing looked nice when I got through with it. He said, wow. He had a grin on his face. He said, man, that car looks good. I said, yeah. I said, all it needed was a bath. So a few days there went by, and I thought, well, you know what, about time for me and the old man to go fishing. I was in the mood, had a couple poles there, a couple bass rods, you know. So I went up there and told him, I said, yeah, I said, tomorrow morning, I said, we're going to go fishing over at the lake. Nice big lake, man, it was huge. It was like brackish water. Had a lot of trees around the edges of it, you know. We could like zoom over there and get back in them weeds and trees and stuff, where he'd be in the shade. I don't want the old man to have a heart attack. So, come over here and get him. I said, yep, let's go. Boy, he was all excited, man. He was like, man, this is like great. So I take the old man. We get a little ice together in my old cooler chest, have a couple cold drinks in there and some water, whatever the old man might need, you know, bring his pills with him in case he has a stroke or something crazy happens. So he brought his pills with him. So we head on out there to the lake. So we get out there and get him in the boat. It's a little kingfisher. I don't know if you ever heard of one or had one, but look it up. Little 15-foot fiberglass. Got swivel seats on it. Had a 25M root on the back of it. So we get out there to the lake and I get the old man. Of course, he can sit in the back because I'm up front where I can steer it. And about to have him steering it. We sure enough get killed. So sure enough, we take off, get him in the back of the boat there in a little swivel seat, you know. So he's got a little swivel seat there. We can swivel around if he needs to. But he's paralyzed on one side. I believe it was his left side. It was like pretty much useless. He would limp on that side. All them strokes and heart attacks kind of like did him in. So we take and we get in the boat and we zoom on out there. I think it'd go pretty good. Fiberglass, you know, it's a pretty lightweight boat. That thing would fly, man. There wasn't really much weight to it. So we was out there and we finally got back there in the trees and all. And sitting back there, every now and then he'd get a little nibble or something, but really didn't catch much anything. So we're back there and we're fishing away, and I get up around noon or so and it's starting to get a little warm. So I told the old man, I said, what do you think? Think we ought to cut out of here? He's like, well, yeah, we want to. I said, all right. I said, well, reel your rod up there and we'll get on out of here. So we go ahead and we pull on out, go on through the bushes and trees and all that crap. Get out there. And we head out into open waters. Ready to hightail it, man. So just before I go to take off, the motor died. Well, that's kind of weird. So we're sitting there, and the old man says, maybe you need to check that prop. Might be some weeds around it. Seaweed and stuff. Well, I said, I don't think that's it, but I'll look. So I pulled the prop up out of the water and checked it. And there wasn't no weeds around it. Wasn't nothing. I thought, that's kind of strange. So I took and pulled the old cover off the motor. Got to checking it out. And I got to looking at it and felt the spark plug. Well, heck, the spark plug felt loose. I'm like, well, no wonder the stupid thing died. I said, the spark plug had backed out. So I had my little toolbox there, you know, my little socket set and all that kind of crap. A couple extra shear pins in case I sheared the prop for whatever reason. So I took and tightened that spark plug up. Get it all tightened up, and of course, like then the cover was still off of the motor. So I took and, well, fire it up, see what happens. Probably run pretty good. So I went ahead and tightened the spark plug up and fixed to take off. Well, it's got a little pull handle, you know, on it. You know, you pull a rope, you pull it, pull start, and away you go. Man, I took and when I pulled that thing to start it, that sucker took off like a wild, crazy freaking Indian, boy. This thing took off, and the next thing you know, it threw me slam out of the back of the boat. Well, thank the good Lord that they do have boating safety tips. Good thing they did, because when that thing threw me out of that boat, they told me there on the TV on their boating safety tips, if your boat ever gets out of control and throws you out the back, be sure to leap as far as you can, because what's going to happen, that prop will suck your head right into the prop. Just suck you right in, take your brains out, skull, eyeballs, whatever. It will mess you up big time. So at any rate, it threw me out of the back of the boat. Of course, I dived way, probably 10 feet away from the boat, man. I leaped really hard. And I jumped, landed in the water, and I remember them saying, always remember that boat is going to make a complete circle. Where you jumped out, that boat is going to run right over you. So be aware of that. So I was definitely aware of it. So I went into the water, and of course I didn't have a life jacket on, which was a dang good thing. If I'd had a life jacket on, I might not be here today to tell you this story. So at any rate, I'm down under the water. And I keep pushing myself down, keep myself down. I was only like, I don't know, probably 22 at the time. So I had a good set of lungs on me. I could stay under that water for a long period of time. So I stayed down under the water, waiting for that boat to come back. And it did. So it came back, and when it did, I took and said, still waiting for something to happen, So sure enough, next thing you know, I'm looking around for where that boat's coming. I'm still under the water. I'm probably, 4 feet under. I keep pushing myself down because I know it's going to come back. So I'm waiting for it to pass by. Sure enough, all these little bubbles, there was like millions of them. I was in a cloud of little bubbles. And I was like, wow, that's that boat. So about that time when the bubbles started to fade out a little bit, I shot back to the top real quick. It wasn't like 6 seconds later, and that boat was coming right back at me again. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Must have been a man upstairs said, Steve, what you need to do is, when you come out of that water, and that boat swings around that circle in a clockwise position basically, and it come around, and what I did is I threw my hands up against the side of that boat, and I shoved myself, sucked my stomach in, and watched that prop go right through, right where my gut was. And that water sprayed in my face. I never will forget it. Never will forget that. So that water sprayed in my face. And I was like, wow. And about that time, here it come again. I'm treading the water, just staying afloat, you know what I mean? So here come that boat again. Come back at me. The old man couldn't, he was crippled on that one side, like when he had that stroke. So that left side was like dead. Needless to say, he couldn't shut the motor off, hit the kill button. We didn't have a little cord on it and all that crap. We didn't have none of that on there. So he took it, going around circles. The next thing you know, he never did fall out of the boat, which was surprising to me. I think he had a life jacket on, but I didn't. I didn't need one, I guess. So that happened 3 times in a row. Threw my hands up, hit the side of the boat, stuck my belly in, let that thing go on by again. Finally I said, you know what, I've had enough of this crap. So I started, swimming backwards, basically watching that motor and watching him in case he fell out of the boat. Then I could go rescue him. It was the plan. And all this happened in a matter of 3 minutes, man. 2 minutes, it was like crazy. So, at any rate, the boat ended up, somebody come by or something, the old man finally ended up killing the motor somehow or another. I don't know how he did it, but turned the chair all the way around, I guess. Ended up hitting that button and killed it. So then some old man hooked up to the boat and pulled it back to shore, brought him back in. And I was just like, I never even got cut. I couldn't believe it. Like, here this boat, it ran over me 3 times, and I walked away from it. Which was absolutely amazing. I survived it, man. Crazy. I learned my lesson, though, about that. Don't take an old man with you that can't freaking walk right. He ain't got both feet and arms and stuff working. You better leave him at home. Oh my gosh, I could not believe it. One crazy day, man. Unbelievable. Amazing, amazing things happen. Some live through it, some don't. You know, it's unexplainable. Crazy stuff, man. Well, then prior to that, I used to do a lot of roofing. Well, that was a lot of fun. And I feel for you roofers out there that got to put them shingles on or do a little hot mopping, a little hot tar bucket maybe. That was an adventure I'll never forget, man. I did it for, it must have been 8 or 10 years I did it. And when you talk about craziness, of course I was always the kettle man. Had to bust them big old round kits up, peel the paper off of them and bust them up with a hatchet. And then lay those pieces in that hot tar kettle. That thing's like 480 degrees from what I remember. I'm sure I didn't miss them degrees by much. But you don't want it to get too hot either. The thing will catch on fire, man. You're gonna have a problem then. All that tar go up in flames? So I'd always keep an eye on that temperature gauge and make sure it stayed at 480. No more than that, no less. And they'd send a bucket down with a rope. I'd bring a pail over there of hot tar and put the hook back on it, send it back up. And I was out there working a kettle there for a while, and some bad things have happened with them kettles. One guy I remember heard about. Guy was up there roofing and he's on the edge of the roof there doing something or another. You know how you'll have like a little piece of gravel or grit or whatever will be on that roof. Well, you gotta be careful when you get near that edge. You know where I'm coming from? So at any rate, this guy was near the edge of the roof, one of the workers, and was on that grit. Next thing you know, he slid off. Yep, and guess where he landed? Right in the kettle. All we heard was one short squeal. And that was it. He was in the bottom of that kettle. Of course he was gone, that was it. They ended up giving the kettle to the family. And he got buried in that kettle. That was his grave, basically. Had him in a graveyard, buried in a hot tar kettle. Well, that was how he ended up. I had another guy there on the job. He was a roofer, good roofer. And the guy basically lived on beans and fatback. Some kind of, I don't know, fatback of some kind, pork or something. Beef maybe. So, never will forget that guy. He was different. Definitely different. Lived in an old shack all by himself. Drank, man, that guy drank like a fish. So all he would do is drink. Hard liquor, man. I mean hard stuff. Cheap stuff. And so, his name was Ralph. His name was Ralph. Yeah, remember that. So, he roofed quite a number of years. And He'd tell me different things that happened to him, this, that, and the other. So he was out hunting with his rifle, 22 rifle he had, squirrel hunting. So he's out there and so he was climbing up a tree. Wanted to be up in the tree where the squirrels couldn't see him, I guess. So he's up there climbing up that tree. And the next thing you know, the limb had grabbed a hold of the trigger. I guess he forgot to disarm it. Sure enough, a limb grabbed that trigger and he was holding the very top of the barrel of the gun of the 22 rifle. So, needless to say, it shot his little finger, his pinky, shot it off basically. It was hanging down by a piece of skin. Yeah. And you can't make this stuff up. That's what I'm trying to get at. This stuff just happens. So he said he took and went back to the shack. I thought, Lord, I wonder where this story's going to go. So he gets back to the shack and goes in the house, gets his bottle of whiskey out, and takes his finger, which he'd rolled up in his hand, took his little pinky there and took and rolled it up, stuck his finger up there like that, and was holding it inside of his hand. It was winter time, and he kept that pinky up underneath there. And he's headed back to the shack there with it. And he goes inside and gets his bottle of whiskey out and some needle and thread. And you know, he sewed that finger back on his freaking hand with needle and thread. Believe that? I kid you not. So I'm like, yeah, and so you sewed it on? He said, well, first I'm going to soak it in kerosene. So we had some kerosene from a lantern, soaked his freaking finger in kerosene. I'm like, wow, and this is true, the true story. So I said, you gotta be kidding me. He said, no. He says, then I got the bottle of whiskey out, my needle and thread there, and poured some whiskey over my fingers. It burned like hell, but other than that, he started sewing his finger back on. And I was just like, wow. I couldn't even imagine that. Sewing your finger back on with needle and thread. Maybe the whiskey numbed it enough, I don't know. But sure enough, he showed me his hand, and I was like, the stitches were like all crooked. I mean, his finger was a little bit bent, but I'll tell you what, he could still wiggle it. He still had movement. I was like, wow. And you could tell by the way that thing was sewn on there, there ain't no way a doctor had sewed that on his finger. I mean, them stitches was kind of crooked. And I was like, wow. I thought I'd seen everything till I seen that. And I'm like, holy cow. That was just amazing. Can't believe it. But yeah, he sewed that baby on there, all right. I couldn't believe it actually worked as good as it did. But yeah, it worked almost like, kind of like new, but not new, but kind of. It was unbelievable. And you never believe how that guy ended up dying. That was amazing in itself. Like I said, he roofed for a long, long time. That's all he did was roof. He was a roofer. So I'll tell you how he ended up dying. He was riding a horse one day. Must have belonged to a neighbor. I don't think it was his. So anyway, he's out there riding that horse. Next thing you know, he's going along there and probably going pretty fast, I guess. Next thing you know, he falls off the horse and hits the ground and breaks his neck. So that's how he left this earth. A broken neck. And that was that. Yep, he was a goner. Oh well, I guess stranger things have happened. But it's the way it goes, I guess. You never know when your time is up. We're only here for a time, and that's it. It's all over. So I'm just kind of letting you know about different things that I've been through, and some things I cannot believe, but things happen. Out of the blue, all of a sudden, you're alive and you wonder why. You're like, wow, I should have been dead. Well, I'll give you an example of that. All right, now that I've had my breakfast, ready to do a little more painting here. What I'm putting together here, if you haven't noticed, it's actually a time clock. Yeah. Never seen nothing like it. Never seen anybody do one, but I guess I'll probably be the first. Going to be on canvas. It's got a clock. And made up of 49 colors. Pretty cool idea. I'm always coming up with something crazy. Man. I've had this stupid chest congestion. That drives me over the edge. Some of these stories I've told you about. Man. Actually, things that actually did happen. You can't make this stuff up. Can't do it. Not gonna happen. So we're gonna back up a little bit here. Man, tell you what. Some crap here. So we're going back to Alabama. 1979. I believe that was the year that Alabama got hit with that mean hurricane, Hurricane Frederick. The thing sat out there in the middle of the ocean for, man. Let's see me get that crap out. Yeah, that hurricane stood out there in that ocean for like 2 or 3 days. Getting stronger, stronger, stronger. Everybody was worried, where is it going to go? Well, that baby headed right towards Mobile, Alabama. And that's where it hit. Boy, what a mess we had. I never seen so much food being cooked. Everybody's freezers went out. Free food, all you can eat. Pretty incredible, actually. Everybody offered you bacon, ham, steaks. All gonna go bad. Of course, they never had a Generac back in them days. So, where we're going now Ralph Brown. I used to live in a little one room. That's what it was, one room. Yeah, it was one room is what it was. Had a hot plate, had a bathtub, toilet. Fan in the window, didn't have no air conditioning. That was kind of rough, but never really paid it much attention, really. As long as you had that fan blowing, you was alright. Shoot, I grew up with a fan blowing. We never had air growing up. It was back in the 60s, man. Up in Ohio. Mom would turn the fan on downstairs and open the windows upstairs and be a breeze through the whole house. Didn't need no air. I don't know if we even had air, to be honest with you. At any rate, getting back to old Ralph Brown. I used to live right across from him actually. He lived in a little small cottage. I mean, it was small. It had a dresser in it, and a bed, and 99% of the time he was outside, out there drinking his beer. He lived off some sort of a, I don't know, pension, retirement, something, I don't know. But that's all he could afford was that little bitty cottage, and all his beer. Oh, cheap beer too, I don't remember what it was, but about $2 a 6-pack, I think it was. So at any rate, I was living right next to him. I decided to move. I found a better deal up the road, a little bigger room that had a few more luxuries to it. Not many, but it was less money. So I thought, shoot, might as well get out of here and go up there. So that's what I did. Didn't have a phone or nothing like that in it. So I moved over there and kicking back there. Next thing you know, I hear a knock on the door. And there's old Ralph Brown. So he told him, I said, yeah, come on in, man. So he comes in. I said, Ralph, I said, well, what have you been doing today? He says, well, I burned the Bible. I told him, I said, do what? Yeah, I burned the Bible. I said, well, I'll tell you what, I said, I want you to get out of here. Beat it. Go. Don't ever come back. Because something's going to happen to you, Ralph, for what you did. It ain't going to be good either. So Ralph says, okay, he split. And I thought, Lord have mercy, something's going to happen to this guy. You know what? It did. So sure enough, he went and left. And every 3 or 4 days, I'd go over and see how he's doing. Well, he wasn't doing so good. After about a couple of weeks, of course, he had to cross the main highway to get back to his little cottage. And after, like I said, after a few weeks there, darn if he didn't get hit by a car crossing that street. He already had his right leg, had like a limp already. And wouldn't you know it, that car took out his other leg, his good leg. Hit him hard, down he went. I was like, wow. I seen it coming. That's the reason I kept checking on him to see, you know, what was going to happen to him for what he did. And I kid you not. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It just doesn't happen. So sure enough, he got hit by that car. Took took his other leg out. Now he's in a wheelchair. Yeah. Strolling himself around in a wheelchair. I've seen him going across that main highway with dirty clothes piled up. He couldn't even see anybody in the wheelchair, but he was under them clothes. So there goes old Ralph doing his laundry in a wheelchair. Imagine that. That's got to be tough. So I said to myself, you know, he's got a lot of suffering to do yet. It ain't over. And I was right. So, guess he got his laundry done and he got back across the street all right, I reckon. I don't know. He made it all right. So like I said, every couple weeks I'd go check on him, see how he's doing. So it must have been, I don't know, been probably maybe 2 months from that point. I'd see him going up the sidewalk all the way up to the grocery store, getting him a 6-pack, 12-pack, whatever he's going to get him. And he'd wheel himself back to his little cottage there. So it's one day I went over there and I seen a mattress laying up beside his little cottage. And it was blood red. I was like, what in the world was that all about? Sure enough. Neighbor says, oh yeah. Says the police were out here last night. Guess he had one of them street walking ladies over there. You know what I'm talking about. And come to find out, he got stabbed over 100 times with an ice pick. Wow. Gosh. And to top it all off, they never did catch the girl that did it. Never did. As far as I know, she's free to this day. I don't think she ever did get caught. So, ended up, I found out, I wanted to find out where he was buried. Well, he was buried with the paupers. Where the homeless and, I don't know, the unknown died for whatever reason. Drugs, I don't know, stabbing, got robbed, I don't know. Whatever happened to them, that's where they wound up. Over in the pauper's grave. And well, that was kind of the story of Ralph D. Brown. That's the way he went. It's kind of strange because I knew something was going to happen to him, but I really never knew what, but I sure had to know. You know, you ever have something, sometimes you just want to know what happened? Well, that's where I was at. I was wanting to know what happened to him. And I found out. I watched him to the day he died. Well, that's the story of Ralph D. Brown. But, you know, look what he did. You don't do that. You don't burn a Bible, man. That's just not right. I wouldn't dream of it. I used to have an Amazon book account here at one time, and thought some of them books I'd get would be Bibles. You think I threw them in the dumpster? No. You don't do that. If you got Bibles, you take them to some preacher, you know. Take them, put them on his porch. Oh, he'll take them books and he'll take them in his place and he'll protect them for all he's worth. You don't have to worry about them books, them Bibles or whatever you got. Anything that had to do with Bibles, oh yeah, I took it over to the preacher's house and gave it to him, put it on his porch. I put them all on his porch and then just leave. I knew he'd find them out there and he ain't throwing them in the dumpster. No siree. So that being said, you know, all these little stories are all true. Actually happened to people. It's just like, you know, you got to treat people right. If you treat them wrong, guess what? You're going to be in a heap of trouble, man. That's why I always try to be fair with people. I try to get along with everybody. I don't want no problems with nobody. You know, just try to be somewhat normal. That's all you gotta do. If you're abnormal, well, guess what? Abnormal things are gonna happen. Best I can figure. But we live and learn. Some of us do, some of us never learn, but that's all right too, I guess. It's all up to them, whatever they want to do. I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. I just watch them fall by the wayside. Well, yeah, imagine that. Unbelievable. But that's all part of life. And there's so much to be, actually you're gonna learn being out there, you know. You make big mistakes, well guess what? Don't blame somebody else. You know, say, well, so-and-so did this, that, and no. You were there at the wrong time, at the wrong place. And you made your choice. Therefore, whatever happened, happened. So, can't really necessarily blame it on somebody else. Oh, it was their fault. Well, call it what you want, but you had something to do with it, obviously, or you wouldn't be in trouble. Right? Right. Very simple. Life's really not that difficult. But some people make it difficult. Of course, they're going to blame it on somebody else. Somebody else did it. Yeah, somebody else did that. Yeah. Sure they did. Yeah, I believe that. Try again, buddy. I keep cleaning this brush out, if you haven't figured it out yet. Most of you probably have. Do the wipe here on this rag, see? Cleans it out a little bit there. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know really where to go next other than maybe Tar Paper Shack. You ever live in one of them? Great price, man. You can't beat it. This is out in Texas. I got out of Alabama. I had enough of that place. Place got to be too much to deal with. So I got out of Alabama and decided to move on to Texas after the hurricane. I got enough money doing roofing. Made enough money to get out of that place. So I met a friend of mine. He was over my little place, at my room I had over there. I ran into him. His name was Donnie. Come to find out later on, that wasn't his real name. He changed his name for whatever reason. Something to do with his brother was in trouble, and he had to change his first and last name for whatever reasons. I really never did find the exact thing out what happened. But that cat, he'd been in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. He was a sniper. And he was definitely affected. Some ways, I don't know. I mean, I never did go to Vietnam. I was one of the few that didn't have to go, thank God. It was a rough experience, I'll tell you that, had to have been. But he would never talk about it. But he could sure drink some alcohol, let me tell you that. He'd drink more whiskey and, wow, unbelievable. So at any rate, we decided to move to Texas, so we did. So in the meantime, we're kind of like looking for a place to live. We call somebody up, they had a place for rent, and we go there. And the old boy come out the door and he'd say, "It's already rented." It's funny, every place we went, everybody said the same thing. We couldn't figure out what in the world. Why would everybody say it's rented? Never understood that. But I finally figured it out. So I told old Donnie, I said, you know, Donnie, of course we had hair down all the way to our waistline practically. A couple long-haired hippies from Mobile, Alabama. So, too much, you know what? We're gonna have to go get a haircut. We're gonna get all our hair cut off. We don't have a choice. Because nobody's gonna rent to us with long hair. So we went downtown. I kid you not, we went downtown. We just walking the streets down there. And just kind of like looking for maybe a barber shop. Place to get all our freaking hair cut off. I'd grown for years and years and years. Well, come by this one barber shop and I peeked in the door. The barber come out there and said, hey, like a haircut? Well, how much is it? He says, for you and your buddy, it's free today. Come on in. I thought, well, you can't beat that. I get a free haircut, man. That's cool. I can roll with that. Now we can get a place to rent. Sure enough, walked inside. He said, how you want it cut? I said, just like everybody else in this town. He says, all right. He said, we'll cut her off. I said, let's do it. Sure enough, man, he trimmed around them ears and cut the back up there, up the neck and all that. And I was like, wow. I could feel the coolest breeze I'd had felt in years. It was amazing, the difference I felt. It was like, wow. This really feels nice, actually. It's nice and cool. So we took and hopped out of the chair and shook the man's hand, thanked him. He said, no problem. He said, we was glad to do it for you. I bet he was too. And sure enough, we walked out the door and guess who was headed towards us? 2 police officers. And both of them said, morning, gentlemen. Now, if he'd have seen us 30 minutes earlier, he'd probably reached for his gun or keep an eye on them boys. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy, man, but yeah. You know what? We finally got a place to rent after that. Wasn't no problem. It took us right on in. Amazing how that worked. It's so funny. Cracks me up when I think about it. So, meanwhile, back at the tar paper shack, that was an adventure, let me tell you. So, I got there, they had this big old ball out front. Well, that's supposed to be a propane tank. It had little tiny heaters inside, only had one in the room because it was so small. It used to be a chicken coop, and they turned it into a tar paper shack. And told him, I says, you know, I said, we're going to have to call a propane guy and have him come out here and fill that big ball out. It looked like a big bomb. That thing was like 4 feet in diameter, just a ball is all it was. So anyway, the guy come out, Mr. Propane come out. And so I said, yeah, so we need to get some propane in our tank here. He says, well, sir, he says, we can't do that. So why is that? He said, them balls, he said, are out of date. We can't fill those tanks. He said, they're dangerous. Well, all right. So he left. I had the money to go buy in a tank and all that crap. So he went ahead and boogied on. So I told old Donnie, I says, you know what, buddy, when it turns winter time, this was Texarkana, by the way. In Texarkana, Texas, let me tell you what, that place can get so cold. you got to put your jugs of water in the refrigerator so they don't freeze, okay? True, very true story. So we found a 55-gallon drum out back, out there in the woods. Took the old barrel and brought it back inside. First we chopped the holes in the bottom of it, a couple on the sides of it, vent. Had to round up wood, made a door for the front, used it to cook on. Did have a Coleman stove, but that barrel was used for keeping water hot. You had to bathe or clean yourself up or whatever, no problem. You had some hot water to clean up with. So we're in that old shack there, you know, got the old barrel going. I'll tell you what, that had to have been the warmest place on that street. Because that baby could get hot, let me tell you what. Surprised we never burned to death in there, because them sparks would fly out of that stove at night. You hear it pop. Man, them hot sparks that hit that freaking carpet. I had a piece of carpet I put in there. And the old pea green carpet. Ugly carpet. So, it's amazing how much wood you can actually burn in a wood stove. I mean, you will go through so much wood, it's like, wow. I can't believe it takes that much freaking wood. Wood after wood after wood after wood. So finally, next thing you know, we'd cleared a lot of the woods out. We took all the dead trees and took all them. And of course, the more wood you use, the further back in the woods you gotta go to find new wood. Yeah, so now you're dragging wood freaking half a mile, man, to the freaking stove. So, that went on for quite some time. Well, while I was in that shack, quite a few things went on. Rats, had some rats come in there. Come here and make yourself at home, I guess. That's exactly what they did, too. Man, we had rats coming in. I mean, I'd lay there in bed at night and I'd shoot them things with a 410 shotgun. I'd put bird shot in it. I'd shoot them right there in the shack, man, in the middle of the night. Boom! You hear this blast go off? Yep, got that when he'd be back there flopping around. We had rats so big, I kid you not. If they could, they would try on your shoes to see if they fit. That's how big these rats were. They call wood rats. And them things are like a small dog, man. It's like unbelievable. Man, I even set them big old, big rat traps, the ones that'll break your finger. Well, I set one of those out. I thought, yeah, I'll catch them babies now. Shoot. You hear that trap go off, man? That rat's back there slinging that trap around. Next thing you know, you hear that rat trap hit that wall. Rat was gone. He opened that thing up and got out and took off. I could not believe it. Yeah. Unbelievable. We gave up on that idea and got some decon. You could hear them upstairs. It sounded like a freaking football game going on. They were running back and forth and squealing and hollering at night. And told Donnie, I said, man, we got to put that decon out there. I said, that'll kill them. Well, it did. Killed them all inside the freaking shack, man. That shack stunk. Good Lord. Smelled horrible in there. I was like, wow. I said, dude, this place stinks. All them dead rats in there. We sat outside 90% of the time. This was in the summertime. And finally, somebody turned me on to green light. Green light was awesome. Because it makes them like dehydrated where they go running for water, see? So the old green light got rid of them. They were gone. You see them going across the yard. They'd be wiggling around and like they was about half drunk. looking for water. Away they went. Never had no more rats after that. They were gone. So I finally got rid of that. Old Donnie, he was the kind of guy, like said he was from Vietnam, been to Vietnam, sniper, and he was something else. This guy couldn't even hunt in the woods without seeing a pointed hat in a tree. Yeah, he couldn't even hold a gun, man. It was like, I never really understood it, but I guess kind of I do now because he was in Vietnam and pretty traumatized, I guess, over everything that happened. It happened to a lot of them that went over there. They just come back and just, I don't know, just under bombs going off all around them and not knowing when they were going to be blown up and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of began to understand it a little bit, a little more than I had. So one day I told Donnie, I said, you know what, man, I said, I'd like to go out and do a little fishing. He's like, well, yeah, man, we can go do some fishing. I said, yeah. I said, we'll get a 6-pack and go out and toss some jigs out there and see what we get. Because I knew about this big lake out there. Might do all right. Bring some fish back to cook. That'd be cool. So we took and set off, got the bait. Had a couple fishing poles. I'd had for quite some time from Alabama. So we head on out there to the lake, around the shore there, shoreline. So I'm out there fishing all. Next thing you know, Donnie, he's just sitting over there drinking his beers, not paying attention, no fishing. He could care less about fishing, man. He just wanted to drink the beer. So I told him, I said, man, why don't you do some fishing? Well, I just want to sit here and drink a cold beer. I said, well, okay, whatever. So, after a while, he's over there acting all stupid and drunk and just acting like an idiot. So I finally had enough of all that. I told him, I said, well, let's just go. I said, I'm not really in the mood to do much fishing right now. I said, we'll worry about this later on. So I left. We left. Maybe I should have left him there, I don't know. So at any rate, we leave and I get back to the shack. I told him, I said, get out of the truck, man. I said, I'm gonna go do me some fishing. So all right, so he slammed the door on the truck, all ticked off at me. Well, I didn't do anything wrong. He's the one that got all drunk, acting stupid, not me. I think I had 1 beer. He drank 5. Imagine that. So, that's kind of how that went down. So I took and I drove off. Went down the road quite a ways, almost got to the lake. You know, by then, shoot, I was out of the mood then. I didn't care about doing no fishing. I decided to just go on back to the shack, heck with it. Let Donnie chill out a little bit, maybe. So I get back to the shack, and I look out the front, across the front yard, where all the trash is piled up, and I see all this food thrown out in the yard. I mean, there was cans of green beans, freaking corn, all different kind of potatoes out in the front yard, on the side of the yard. He took every bit of food out of them cabinets. He got mad. And to top it all off, he broke every window in that shack. There wasn't many windows in it. I think there was like 5 or 6. And he busted every one of them out. And so I told him, I said, Donnie, I says, what's all this food doing out here, man? He said, well, I don't know. He said, somebody broke in. I said, really? Somebody broke in? They broke in, threw the food out of the windows, and the glass is on the outside. I said, I'll tell you what, buddy. I said, you the one that busted all these windows out. You the one that threw all that food out there in the yard. Somebody broke in. Yeah, I believe that. Freaking idiot. I told him, I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go up there to the neighbor's house up there. I said, there ain't nobody living in it anyway. I said, you know that plastic out there in that garage? I said, I want you to bring that plastic up here. I said, we're going to have to cover these windows up. I said, if we don't, there's going to be bugs in here as big as a bullfrog coming through these windows at night. I said, that ain't going to be no good, Donnie. So he went up there all ticked off. You know, he's all mad at me. I don't know why he's mad at me. I didn't break the windows out. He did. Idiot. So at any rate, comes back, brings the plastic. So I handed him a roofing hatchet. Same thing, I had a couple roofing hatchets. And I gave him a bunch of nails. I gave him that. Fold the plastic over, put it over the window, and then tack it. That's all you gotta do. Real simple. So he takes and I said, you do the kitchen, I'll do the living room. So he's hammering away in there, banging around. Next thing you know, I hear this big bang. I'm thinking to myself, wonder what that's all about. Sure enough, bad marker there. It's a good one there. Oh yeah. So I end up going in there and I'm like, I heard the noise, right? The big bang sound. So I'm like, oh man. So I looked at him. So I heard him holler. He said, hey Steve. Yeah, Donnie. We need. Come here. So I go in there in the kitchen. And I look at him, he's just standing there. So I look down at his feet. And I'll be darned. He took that hatchet and threw it at the wall. Well, the hatchet come back. I kid you not. That hatchet come back and stuck right through his foot. Stuck it right into the floor of the shack. And I told him, I said, wow, dude, I can't believe you did this. Well, he said I threw it at the wall and this, that, and the other, and it come back and got one through my foot. Yep, sure did. So he said, well, he says, that's why I told him, I said, well, I got to pull that hatchet out of your foot. So I grabbed the hatchet, jerked it out of his foot. He said, well, he said, I'm going to go in there and lay down. I said, no, you ain't. I said, you go in there and lay down? You'll never wake up. I said, you're going to bleed to death. You have to go to the hospital, dude. They got to sew you up. Stitch you up, whatever. They got to clean that out, man. So I take him on to St. Mary's Hospital. Of course, they're good about not charging you nothing. Guess they could tell by looking at us we didn't have any money. So he wobbles in there down the hallway and rag wrapped around his freaking leg. So we go in there and told him, I said, yeah, my buddy here was chopping wood out back, and I said, his hatchet slipped and almost cut his foot off. So, well, come on in here, sir, we'll fix you right up. So he goes in there and the nurse, surgeon or whatever looked at him and cleaned him up real good. Got him all stitched up. Yeah, put him back in the old truck and head on back to the shack. I was like, man, oh man. Could not believe it. The crazy thing about that shack is in the wintertime, it was up off of the ground. It was like sitting on blocks, basically. Concrete blocks. So in the wintertime, the freaking pipes would break every freaking winter, man. So I got these little connectors where you could put it on a split pipe tighten both sides of it like a piece of rubber tubing, and put it over that split part where the frozen split. You could hear them at night cracking. It got really cold. Thank God for that wood stove, man. I made out of a 55-gallon drum. That was a blessing in disguise right there. Went down to 16 degrees one night. Cold, man, it was cold. Remember the jug of water was sitting on the counter? Nothing more than a block of ice. I was like, wow. Good luck making coffee. Didn't happen. So, I mean, that shack had many things went on in that crazy place. All kind of stuff went on. Especially them stupid rats. I remember his mother sent him a 5-pound box of cookies. I mean, man, there was every kind of cookie in that box you could imagine. I mean, they had oatmeal, freaking peanut butter. I mean, all these different flavors. Really cool. So I ate a couple of them. Yeah, 3 or 4 of them. I was going to have some in the morning when I got up. Of course, in the morning I go out there and woke up there that morning, going to have me some cookies and coffee. Could find some water somewhere. So I took and went in the kitchen there, and you know that whole box was empty? Freaking rats, man, and wood rats had eaten the whole entire 5-pound box of cookies. And that was when I got the green light rat poison. I said, that's it, boy, I killed them all. They all split. But kind of late, cookies were all gone. I got like 2 or 3 out of the whole box. I don't know if Donnie even had any. Or he didn't deserve any the way he was acting. But that was his problem, not mine. Tar Paper Shack. That place had some memories, let me tell you. That's where I almost died, man. That place, unbelievable. Yep, like to die there, man. It was just really not too good, but I'll tell you what happened. And you can't make this up either. So he had a big old station wagon that he had bought during the hurricane. We did roofing. Made a few bucks. So he had his big old Fleetwood. Man, I think I only do like 50 miles an hour. Well, that ain't right. I think it should go faster than that. So I told him, I said, that exhaust has got to be bent. That's because that motor is starving for air. So we got looking around the car underneath it. Doggone if I didn't hit the nail on the head. The freaking exhaust was bent up around the axle. I guess somebody had backed over or who knows what. Screwed that up. So back then we just had one of them old time bumper jacks that went click, click, click. I don't think they even had hydraulic jacks back then. So we took and put a bunch of logs under it, concrete blocks. Jacked it up so high, you know, so I'd get up underneath the car to fix the stupid thing. Got some of that muffler wrap crap and put on there and sealed that thing up. Well, I was underneath there and had an urge to have a freaking smoke. So I got up underneath the car and went over to the side over there and just probably wasn't, I don't know, less than a minute. And just about the time I lit that cigarette, you know, that car fell. Heard a big boom noise right behind me. And I thought to myself, don't tell me that car just fell. Sure enough, I turned around. First I seen this big cloud go past me. Well, that was the concrete blocks that got crushed. And I turned around and I looked at that car and I just went, wow. I'll tell you what, I must have had 3 cigarettes in a row. I thought, man, I mean, you seen death right there. It was like, that was real. That was like, wow, I could not believe it. True story, man. So the Lord spared my life again. One with the boat, one with that. I don't know, I guess I have a reason for being here. Maybe to make this video, I don't know. No idea, but I guess maybe some of y'all learned something from all this. I know I sure wisened up to a few things. They call that wisdom, right? That wisdom? Got more wisdom than you had? Yeah, that's kind of what I'd call it. Yeah, I've been in the arts all my life since I was a little bitty guy. I was always drawing something, painting something, building model cars, painting the model cars. All the time doing something. Making something cool, you know. Always something. I guess it's some kind of an escape from all the crap the world feeds you, you know what I mean? In a way, I guess maybe it's kept me sane all these years. Watching some of these people and the things they do and what happens to them. Kind of amazing, actually. But learn after a while to kind of like just behave, you know. Don't be getting other people's faces because you're just going to get in trouble. I've seen it happen too much. Way too much. But that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. Yeah, it's been an adventure, I'll tell you that. It ain't been boring. No, sure hasn't. No, it ain't been boring at all. So I wanted to make this video. I'm sure I've got more here to talk about here eventually when I come up with something that happened down the road. I hitchhiked around the United States for quite some time. About 4 years, actually. That's all I did was hitchhike. Traveled around. Wasn't no big deal back then. Except for that guy out there on the interstate. The guy told me, he said, yeah, he said, some guys running around killing hitchhikers, burying them with their backpacks. Well, guess what? I had backpacks and I was hitchhiking through Texas at the same time. That Texas murderer was out there. Well, I never ran across him. It's a good thing because I think I'd have got him because I had my sleeping bag and I never put my stuff in the trunk. I always traveled with a partner of some kind. Had to have a friend, be safe. And they probably didn't want to pick up 2 people because it might have a problem. And let me tell you what, they would have definitely had a problem had they picked me up. Because in the middle of my sleeping bag was a steel pipe. I told that buddy of mine, I said, whatever you do, I said, if you're going to sit in the front seat, let me be in the back seat behind him. This way, if he pulls anything stupid, I can slide that pipe out of that backpack and smack him right in the back of the head, and you better grab that steering wheel because I'm going to knock him out cold. Sure enough, we never did have a problem. Not once. The whole time. No, sure didn't. We got stuck out there somewhere, I don't know. Nobody
It was like somebody dropped us off in the middle of nowhere, man. I mean, there was no traffic, like in the middle of an old farm road. We had long hair. I'm sure that probably had something to do with it. The guy said, well, I'm gonna fix them. I'm gonna stick them out here and drop them off. That's what he did. So we went out there, man, it'd be 30 minutes go by, you wouldn't even see a car, man. I'm like, wow, this is bad news, dude. We're gonna be stuck out here. So we hung out there and for a long time trying to get a freaking ride. So sure enough, this guy, old farmer, pulls over in this old truck. Hop in the back, boys. So we hopped in the back of it, and I told him, I said, dude, I said, you see what I see? That's hog crap, man. He'd hauled pigs in the back of it, and they'd done their business all in the back of the bed of that truck. Man, we had more poop on us. It was awful. I look back over that guy that gave us that ride, and he did that just for meanness. Yeah, I'm gonna put these two hippies in the back here with the cow crap. Pig crap, that's what it was. Hog pen, that's what it was, like a hog pen. I could not believe it, man. Yep. Never will forget that ride. That was not a good ride, let me tell you. Nope, did not enjoy that ride at all. But that's what happens out on the farm. Pretty much. Unbelievable. But that's the way it goes. Eventually, I guess we did get a ride. I don't know how long we was out there, but out there quite a while. Too long, actually. But oh well, we survived. We made it. That's the important part. I survived. Me and my buddy survived, actually. I don't know who he was, just some guy I met on the side of the road somewhere. I said, hey buddy, we gotta travel together, man, if you wanna be safe. So that's what we did for a while. Did that for a number of years, probably, I don't know, hitchhiked for like about 4 years, I think it was. Traveled all over the United States, went all the way to Huntington Beach, California, Long Beach, Black Beach. That was a nude beach out there. That was pretty bizarre. Never seen nothing like that before. It was unbelievable. But it's all part of life, I guess. Kind of an adventure, actually. Would I do it again? Nah, sure wouldn't. Nah, I put enough in the bank to keep me alive. No more old wood stoves or living out in the middle of whatever. Kills me how some of these people try to survive and they're over in Alaska. Living in Alaska. Yeah, man, they're going bear hunting. Well, little do they know, a bear will be hunting you. That's what can happen. My brother tried that. He heard this bear behind him grunting at him. No, he gave up on that crap real quick like. He had enough of all that. Bear was hunting him. That's how that turned out. He used to say he never went back to Alaska again to go hunting. No, that kind of ended it. I couldn't believe all the people that get killed out there. Attacked by, I don't know, whatever's, lions or tigers or all kind of stuff out there kill you. Some of them places average like, I think it was 30 deaths a month. Like a person a day died. Over something wild, got a hold of them, bear or whatever. killed them in their little house, busted out their windows. Phew. No, I'll pass on that one, buddy. You can have all that. I don't want no part of that one. No siree. No, no such part of that. Probably adjust this camera a little bit. We can see what the heck I'm doing. I guess you can see part of it. Painting the edge pieces here. Yep, all the edges got to be black. There's a reason for it. When it's done, you'll see why. It actually serves a purpose. Believe it or don't believe it. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. At least for me anyway. Some people be bored to tears with it. That's why I'm telling you the story. Things that have gone on. A lot of stuff happens in your 50 years out there. I'm actually going to be 72 in 6 months. Getting older and older and older. We ain't getting no younger. That's for certain. We're getting older every day. The older you get, the faster it goes. Anybody can tell you that just about. A lot of truth to that. Another 8 years or so I'll be dead, more than likely. But hopefully my story will get out there and other people can enjoy it. Life and Times of Steve and Donnie. And that's just part of the story. And there's other things I'm sure I'll come up with. I just have to dig back in that closet and dig them out. Something interesting, I'm sure it's going to pop up sooner or later. In the meantime, I'm going to turn the camera off. And I'm going to listen to some music. Music's always pleasant to the ears, you know. I can't put it in the video because then they'll kill my video. Can't be playing music on the radio or whatever. So that's what I'm going to do in the meantime. Take a break, have a cup of coffee, cold beer, whatever. Whatever you choose. Just remember, stay out in the woods, man. There's creatures out there to get you. They're out there waiting for you. And they're hungry. So until then, you have a pleasant evening.